he already told her so much about him. Him being his amazing twin brother. But there was only one problem. His amazing twin brother, it didn't exist. But that's not entirely true. He just didn't exist anymore. But his date, Amanda, she didn't need to know that. Tim didn't want to face what always happened when the unavoidable but excruciating question came, do you have any siblings? I had a brother, but he died. Well, what happened? Just the simple fact of his death was not sufficient. 22-year-old men don't just die, and more information was needed. It was an accident. And it was. Kind of. What kind of accident? A car accident. Oh, I'm so sorry. The conversation, which had just been skipping along like a stone across a smooth surface of water, would inevitably stop and sink. It was no easier if he had just said no. While technically true, he felt as if he was betraying Jim, as if he had never existed, but he had. And besides not talking about it, he still talked about it, and around it, constantly editing the first 2 decades of his life by removing the central character. Inevitably, he would skip, and he'd mess up, and he would put a we or a he instead of a me. And this would lead to another inevitable, why didn't you just tell me? Eyes looking, and another conversation ended. There was no good way to talk about a dead sibling. So when she asked, he just responded, he's a doctor. It's neither a calculated lie nor a complete fabrication. The truth of his past was cobbled together with an absent yet possible present. He's working in a clinic in Thailand, in a small village. No, I don't remember the name. Clinic is a generous word. It's more of a concrete box. And he should have just stopped there, but she was nodding with this rapt attention, and he just couldn't. Sometimes when he comes into work, there's a line of maybe 40 to 50 people. Some of them had just been walking for days just to get there. For once, mentioning Jim wasn't this awkward end to a conversation. Amanda had all sorts of questions, and Tim answered them. She didn't know that most of the details came from an old New Yorker article about a doctor who was in the same type of place, saving lives. And when he finished the article, Tim thought, what am I doing with my life? The only thing that Tim saved were tiny pixelated images, tiny little universes, creating shadow where there was no shadow, removing blemishes, age lines of people if needed. After he finished med school, he and his brother were supposed to go to Thailand. He sounds amazing. And Tim, he felt it, that familiar shift. Has he ever come to Hong Kong? No, he hasn't made it yet, which was true enough. But it's so close. Yeah, I know. The night ended and they promised to meet again. Tim went home and brought his brother back to life, altering his own image, adding a tousled head of hair and a slightly bronzed cast to his skin, both befitting of a man who lived in a remote area. Then, carefully, he altered the contours of his own face to match the memory of Jim's, not forgetting to add the impressive scar across his right cheek. And even with that, Jim had always been the better looking one, and it hurt to look at. Why wasn't it you? Tim knew that people thought that, but his mother actually said it or spat it. Why wasn't it you? She came to see him in the hospital after the funeral. He was still in the ICU, still in traction, still too broken up to go. It was the last time that she spoke to him. His days were filled with constant reordering of the events of that night. If he only had altered one of the sequences, they wouldn't have been in the front, or they wouldn't be in the front of that bus. Jim would still be here. Tim felt like the fake, the cheap copy with bad stitching and poorly rendered details. His mother was right to ask. You know, I couldn't find your brother on Facebook. Well, he never really got around to that. Does he have like a blog or something? Because what he's doing, it sounds amazing. Yeah, it is. He is. He really is. It was just so nice to talk about him in the present tense. It was just so nice to talk about him. He created a Gmail account for him. How often do the two of you talk? Like we should Skype or something. He doesn't really Skype. He's more of a letters kind of a guy. He writes letters? Sometimes, but mostly emails. It's more reliable. True enough. I just find his work just so interesting. I mean, I'd love to meet him. Amanda was a teacher thinking of leaving her post and volunteering for a year. He joked, "Isn't that what you're already doing?" She didn't smile. He began writing general messages about Jim's days in life at the clinic. He was overworked but happy. They had gone to separate universities. Jim had written him handwritten letters every week, the envelopes covered with corny med school jokes. One arrived for him the day right after Jim died. Can't wait to meet the new girlfriend. And now, it was somehow comforting when those messages arrived from Jim in his inbox. He'd read the emails to Amanda aloud, calling up memories of past letters and conjuring up a life for his brother. His brother probably would have been, and the he that Jim wanted to be, and Tim wanted to be. Amanda sounds great. I'm so happy you found someone, his brother wrote. Amanda suddenly seemed non-committal. Yet another girl falling for his nearly perfect brother. I'm sorry, I don't know what it is. I can't help it. And Jim couldn't. Identical didn't mean equal. And he didn't want to fight with Jim anymore. Just back off, just back the fuck off. Those were Tim's last words to his brother before the truck plowed into the passenger side door. He remembers yelling at Jim, but nothing else. What happened between those words and the impact, the accident had completely erased from his memory. When he woke, he asked for Jim. He asked even though he knew the answer. After that, Tim lost a semester of school, recovering from his injuries, then another trying to remember what happened that night, then he quit med school, then he left school altogether. A friend told him, "You were just in the wrong place at the wrong time." But Tim had driven them both there. Amanda's interest in amazing Jim was not waning. He realized that he would have to kill off his brother again, relocate him, or remove him completely from his life. If he simply relocated Jim, and he and Amanda were still together, she would always ask, "How's your brother?" He couldn't compete anymore. But if he killed him, would he have to grieve again? Had it ever stopped? She took it well. Amanda, I have something that I that I have to tell you. My brother needs my help for a project. I can't abandon him, and he can only do it with me. Of course, no, you should go. She said this without even asking for the details. She almost seemed relieved. Maybe I'll come and visit him, finally meet. He didn't want to hear that, but he suspected that he would. Tim thought that he could find the village, that he could buy a medical degree online, help out at a clinic, read up on tropical diseases, and he had 2 years of med school. Jim would always meet him home on the breaks. He would stand at the end of the driveway waiting for Tim, and he would tackle him with his hug, his hair long and unkempt, his skin slightly tanned from the California sun. My amazing brother. When Tim arrived in Bangkok, he half expected to see Jim standing there at the airport, waiting, looking quite the same he had in his conjured up images, overworked but happy. He walked slowly past the crowd of people holding signs or looking expectantly into the crowd. Jim wasn't standing there, but he was still, as always, just there.